Hey everybody, welcome back to Lost in Plots. I am here with Maggie, who is one of
Hi.
our awesome co-hosts, but I'm also here with Tara. Hey Tara.
Hi.
A lot of folks might not know this, but Tara has been my best friend of 11 years and now is currently with Crystal over in customer support at OwlCrate. And I figured that we're going to be talking about OwlCrate-A-Con later on in the episode and doing a little bit of a fun recap. We will be talking about Babies in a Bucket as well as Butter and the song that John Scalzi sang us. We are very lucky individuals. But first, we actually wanted to touch a little bit on Six of Crows, which we've just released or is just shipped this
Mhm.
week.
Yes,
I'm actually super excited for it.
they're
Same.
beautiful copies, honestly.
I remember when we shipped Shadow and Bone, it was just after Charleston last year, and I got to meet Lee, and it was just a super special experience. So getting to see Six of Crows done by us is pretty amazing. Now, I'm getting the box and goodies, but some folks online have been having some feels and feedback about the Six of Crows items, Tara.
Yes.
What can we
Um,
tell them about it?
so the biggest thing I've seen is everyone is just concerned about the difference in the the goodies between Six of Crows and what we had in the Shadow and Bone box.
Yeah, I understand. There's probably like quite a few hardcore fans of the Grishaverse that would have liked to see different items. I do know, Maggie,
More
that
items.
sometimes we or more of them, right? Now, I know that there was a difference between the Shadow and Bone box and the Six of Crows box in curation, Mags.
Yes. When I first joined OwlCrate, it was on the tail end of the Shadow and Bone box. But what I can tell you is that curating both of these boxes is a process that took over a year. We worked extremely closely with Lee Bardugo and her agents to make sure that the items being put out were things that they approved of, they signed off on. That's a very key part of the process for both of these boxes.
Now, I kind of ran into a little bit of trouble with that too with Aragon, because there were some certain things in place in terms of rights and the ways that characters could be represented in that book simply because the rights had been also purchased for the Aragon TV show being produced over at Disney. So do you think that Netflix and the rights had an impact on the Six of Crows box?
Without a doubt, there were so many, even just types of items that we were not able to do because of the rights that Netflix has, and that is not the fault of anyone. That's just the reality that we faced, and we had to work within those restrictions.
Now that we know better, though, having worked with restrictions in some of these really big IPs moving forward in the future, I think we're definitely going to be on the lookout to see if we can do more items or just different items. And we'll have this as a way to show feedback to reps in the future of like what it is that our readers are looking for. So, really, it's just a learning experience all around.
Yeah,
And I'm still
that's
really going to enjoy the stuff that's coming with us with it.
yeah. I'm very excited. The
Is this the box of Bones coffees coming in?
No, it's not Bones Coffee. It's my friends Isaac and Ashley that own Drip Coffee Labs. They're the ones who did the coffee for the Six of Crows box.
Say what we want about items sometimes in all boxes, because there's never anything, I don't think I've ever received a box where I'm like, every single one of those items were definitely for me.
Hmm.
But when there's coffee involved, or like when there's small businesses and we get to work with people like Cade or Chloe or your friends and people like Fiction Bath Co. There's so many small businesses here that we get to work with. It's just absolutely wonderful. So hopefully we will get to work with Isaac and Ashley again.
Yeah. Oh yes,
That would
we
be
will
awesome.
definitely be working with them again. The process to curate the coffee for this box was so smooth. They made it really easy. So
Did you get to test it?
I did not know. Karina and Teresa tested it as the really like significant fans of the book. And also, I mean, I've had their coffee before. I'm lucky that
Tara,
way.
is there anything else before we let you go that folks can do if they have any feedback about the Six of Crows box?
Feedback, especially if there are any concerns about damages, either with the books or the items, would be to email us at support@owlcrate.com. or you
And we'll
can
take
reach
care
out
of
to
you.
us through the website.
Was
And
was that one of your notifications for your work?
no, that was my father-in-law letting me know he's coming to get my dog.
Oh, nice.
The important things. Okay, Tara, on a light note before you go, tell everyone what you're reading or what your last favorite read was.
Well, that's a great question. Actually, no, I am reading something right now. I am. And Jordan knows what this is because I told him about it. I am reading Monsters and Masquerade.
Oh,
Lucky me getting to read it ahead of time.
that's
I can
that's another piece
confidently
of news,
say.
Maggie. We are actually moving forward through the proofreading
Oh
part
yeah,
of Monsters before it's fully typeset and made available to everyone, which is scary.
it's a big
I can
deal.
confidently say too. I'm not normally like a horror reader. I don't exist within that genre, but the the stories I've read are phenomenal, and I'm very excited for it to be out in the world.
Same.
Thank you for saying that. It's been a long road and it's my baby.
Well, and your story is phenomenal, so
That's
I'm
enough.
really excited for you to be out in the world even more.
Little authorini.
Authorini, we'll get into that in just a second. Tara, thank you so much for joining us and talking all about Six of Crows and customer support. We appreciate it.
Anytime.
We love you, Tara.
Love you, Tara.
Love you. Bye.
Now, we are going to talk about OwlCrate-A-Con. And the reason why we let Tara go, by the way, is because Tara didn't actually join us for OwlCrate-A-Con this year. She had some other plans, and they were probably more fun than hanging out with us for an entire 2 days, Maggie.
Completely parked in your computer chair, just not moving for hours on it.
That's okay. But we had a blast during OwlCrate-A-Con. I actually have the OwlCrate-A-Con t-shirt up here, the back of it, to remind me of our guests because
Oh,
we
sure.
just had
Good
so
call.
many. So I'm going to do a very quick shout out and thank you to OwlCrate-A-Con 2024, our special guests, Catherine Quinn, Emily Varga, Romina Garber, Roshni Choshi, Jay Kristoff, Christopher Paolini, V.E. Schwab, Angela Montoya, Robin Alvarez, Sarah Rana, Jason Headley, Kevin T. Norman, Sarah A. Parker, Kaylee Smith, Ali Hazelwood, Jared Schusterman, Sophia Lapuente, BK Borison, thanks Bex, Kendara Blake, Grady Hendricks, Zoja Staj. See? Did I get that right?
Zoya. Yep.
Fantastic. Zoya?
Yep.
See, it's a difficult name. Sorry, Zoya. Beth Rivas, Rebecca Roanhorse, John Scalzi, Sarah Raish, Robson Michelle, Vera Trimanovsky, and Swana from Sarah Art. Special thanks to Bindery, who sponsored one of our panels, and our book club guests, Words and Whimsy Book Club, and the Bookish Besties. They are our personal book clubs and our favorite people.
We love them. Yeah.
And actually, that was probably some of the most fun I unintentionally had.
Yes. The Bookish Besties reading sprint on Friday night. Shout out to Jasmine and McKenna for hosting their first reading sprint on Nest.
I don't think that they were quite expecting how many folks that they got for this reading sprint. And I think that they had an absolute blast. And we were total menaces in the comments the entire time.
We certainly were. Yeah, made it very hard for them to focus on their reading.
And then the next morning, the mod morning with Amber and Anna and Leah, and they did bookish journaling.
Yes.
I think it really kicked it off in a cozy sort of way.
It did. I mean, my favorite is always when Leah has the double setup of here, you can see my face as I'm working, but also here's my planner and cat cam.
My cat. Just...
Yes, because majority of the time Leah ends up not able to do any journaling. It's just Stan. Just huge cat. And honestly, that's what people want. They want to see our pets more than us.
They actually do. That's the feedback that we receive the entire time. And when, do you remember when John joined the live stream for the sci-fi?
Yeah.
And I don't know whether you saw this. This is before we went live. But John was like, I'm really sorry. My pets are menaces. And we're like, no, that's great. You should just show them off, please. And ultimately, that's where all of my favorite parts of OwlCrate-A-Con and like our lives in general comes from. The way that we style these after this ridiculous live stream show, and Maggie knows what I'm going to talk about right now. We're going to talk about Chicken Shop Date, which is one of my favorite interview shows. And the premise is that you sit down with celebrities and you're just having fun. You're learning things that their fans might not already know. You know, a lot of the authors that we get to talk to, especially big authors like Jay and Christopher especially, who's had fans for 20 years. You know, you've heard all about their stories. You've lived inside their heads. You've lived inside their characters' heads. What people really want to know is what flavored ice cream is their favorite.
Yes.
And that's what we do for you folks. We ask the hard-hitting questions.
We do. We don't want this to be an interview that you could go and see the exact same thing anywhere else on the internet.
Okay, so for that reason, we really need to explain then why our merch that is coming out of OwlCrate-A-Con has a custom butter all over it. And that's your fault, by the way. We're just going to lay that at your feet, Maggie.
It is. Well, the first panel we hosted was our OwlCrate YA author panel. Emily Varga was telling us about her debut novel, which is called For She Is Wrath. And
we're definitely doing. We're just going to say that out loud.
I mean, we've already, you know, we've hinted at it online, and yeah, so spoiler alert. I don't know, after the fact. Anyways, so Emily is we're talking about naming characters, because when I read Catherine Quinn's book, her main character had a different name, and so I was very confused. But so we're talking about that, and Emily was talking about how she originally had a different name for the male main character in her book. And then one of her friends told her, well, actually, sometimes that name means butter. And so Emily at first was like, you know, it's okay. It has another meaning, so we're going to go with it. But then as she kept writing, all she could think about was butter. And of course, all of us on this panel are just crying, laughing, because it's just so wildly unexpected. And then nearly every panel after that, butter was discussed at some point. Or at the very least, the Nesties made sure to bring it to the comments.
And now we have an official OwlCrate-A-Con t-shirt that is actually just a block of butter with measurements on it. And that is what we've decided is OwlCrate 2024. We had the cutest mascot, and we're like, no, what do people really want? It's butter.
Butter. It's butter. Mm-hmm. No,
butter or sexy bird daddies.
Oh, yes.
We actually revealed some of our artwork for the board game Strix.
We did.
And I think during our bindery panel,
yeah, it would have been
the one photo that I chose is just a very sexy Horus, and imagine that in your head. If you haven't seen this artwork, you might just be like, sexy bird might not be for me, but it is for everyone. Mm-hmm. He was carefully crafted for all of us.
Oh yes, the art from this entire project has been very confusing.
It was a gift to Team OwlCrate, really. I actually lay the blame for that at Alyssa's door.
Yes.
Because every single update that Alyssa has ever provided us for artwork for Strix is somehow both horrific and or sexy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which is really what you want, right?
It is.
You should preface that this board game will definitely be for ages 18 plus, just due to the nature of the artwork on this. I don't think people are expecting this from OwlCrate.
No, definitely not. There's a lot more nipples than you're used to seeing from us. Yep.
What's some other stuff about OwlCrate-A-Con? If I said baby in a bucket, the only people who would know what I'm talking about would be the horror panel.
Yes, that is and true.
That's about the point in our day when everything went wrong technologically.
Oh, was that the first?
Yeah. That was the first, like, oh no panel that we kind of had to, like, figure out a workaround because the Nest was limiting viewers to 200 people per live video. And we were like, that's never going to work. We're running our poor app into the ground at the moment. So we had to kind of pivot, and we hosted them as webinars. But what we didn't realize is that by hosting them as a webinar on our software, that the authors could speak back to the people in the comments. Mm-hmm. And that's where, like, Baby in a Bucket from Grady Hendrix came from. Mm-hmm. Which everybody's like, oh, you know, baby's in a bucket, and Grady pipes up in the comments that I was moderating to say, oh, I put a baby in a bucket in my last book, and we were like, I beg your pardon.
I think that was really a highlight for people. It's like, not only are they watching, you know, some of their favorite authors be interviewed live, but in that one, they could put a comment in, and Grady Hendrix might just respond back to your comment. Like, how cool is that?
It's been such a cool, like, good experience by doing it that way that I think we're going to continue to do it that way.
Yeah. It seems like people didn't have an issue with, comments being, they couldn't post comments or anything.
Oh,
It
and
seemed like,
they could do live reacts on these ones, which
yes.
I'm the
Yeah,
first one to step up and say that the Nest's messaging and comment system could be improved.
sure could.
And Maggie will let you know that it is a priority of mine to fix some of these issues moving forward.
It sure is. Another cool thing that we discovered is that we could pick comments and actually like show them up on the screen with the video, which was kind of cool when there was questions that we wanted to ask the author. We could highlight it on the screen, both for them, for everyone watching. Just a cool little feature.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be doing more of that.
I think so. I kind of like it. I'm kind of tempted to just try it on Friday with Maureen Johnson.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. After the horror panel was sci-fi.
Yes.
And I think that you need to talk about the sci-fi.
I think that it was one of the greatest privileges of my life to sit in a room with Beth Revis, Rebecca Roanhorse, and John Scalzi. I have very few times felt completely unqualified to talk to authors, which probably sounds a little bit strange. There's a number of times where I've been unqualified to talk to authors. The first one being, of course, when I interviewed Christopher Moore, who is a very, very big spec fiction writer. And the very first thing I think he said to us was, well, this one time when I was at Obama's White House with my friend, now he wrote a series of books called Lemony Snicket. You might know who that is. That was the first time in my life where I was like, I'm woefully unqualified to talk to someone. The second time was with John Scalzi, but he actually made us feel very comfortable. And Rebecca Roanhorse was very quiet during that interview, but I know that she could have like absolutely slated me and roasted me at any time if given half an opportunity. They're just so smart. And I found it so intimidating in the best possible way, because I do find that interviewing authors on that level makes me better.
Sure. Makes sense.
It makes me better at interviews, but it also makes me a better writer and a better reader. So I tend to just sit back and like listen and kind of take it in. But the sci-fi panel specifically, when John was talking about how there is the old guard of authors, I think within the science fiction and fantasy genre, that felt quite intimidated by what you would presume to be upstarts within the genre, whether or not you're talking about Rebecca Roanhorse or N.K. Jemisin, even going as far as Rebecca Yarros with her huge success with Fourth Wing. Fantasy is now kind of tipping in another direction where predominantly fantasy readers themselves are women, they're marginalized individuals, they're queer, they're a much more diverse group of people than they were even 30 years ago within this genre. But when John said, that's an opportunity for authors like me to do better and earn my place that I've been provided within this genre, then he takes it as like this personal goal of his to improve himself and make sure that he's showing up for his readers in the way that they would expect him to in this ever changing genre. And I really enjoyed hearing him speak about that. And it was really, we know what's been in the news from a lot of these authors who have had a lot of opportunities given to them. And a lot of the time, they turn around and they're not good people. And John Scalzi's one of the good ones, and I'm so happy that he is.
It's so refreshing to hear a man who is so prolific as him to still feel that he needs to be earning his spot. He needs to be earning his readers, and anything that it's very
I think that was a theme with a lot of authors that we talked to over OwlCrate-A-Con, because the same thing could be said for V.E. Schwab when Victoria spoke to Karina and I about, the pressures of being an author at her level, writing things like sapphic novels. Like, there's a lot of scrutiny. There's a lot more hoops that, those books need to jump through in order to be seen as a commercial success from publishing. Right. And, hearing her talk about how she still feels like it's an uphill battle is absolutely wild. And it's fun and nice to see people like Jay Kristoff, Christopher Paolini, and John Scalzi just rooting for these female and marginalized authors. Like, they are in their corners.
Yep.
And during the keynotes, when I talked to Jay and Christopher, Jay's comment especially about the difficulties of his writing. Sometimes people see him as the characters that he writes, or they see him as this person who writes these stories, and they might have a lot of like assumptions about who he is as an individual. And hearing him talk to Rosh and hearing Christopher go, "Hey Rosh, I remember when you were a debut and we sat on a panel together, and like now look at where you are." It's absolutely incredible. And watching all of the older authors get a chance to kind of bring in the newer authors and see their support and see that, you know, they're there in the trenches improving this industry is just, OwlCrate-A-Con is everything. But that's really what it's about.
My favorite part of that panel was how quickly Christopher and Jay both said, "Oh, you know, I'm the soldier," or "I'm the poet," and Rosh is our queen. They just immediately knew the right answer. She is our queen. Full stop.
Yeah, like when I had envisioned that, I don't think I had any authors specifically in the roles for that panel except for Jay.
Well, he's
Because
6'7",
I was like,
so.
with the worlds that Jay writes, I mean, you kind of have to put him in the soldier category,
right?
And it's not him; it's his books.
Yeah. But also, again,
just
the
like
fact
Rosh
that he's
was a poet
6'7",
in that scenario, because if you've ever read Rosh's books, you would understand.
Right.
And Christopher, I mean, I'm sorry, dude wrote Aragon. You can kind of ride that for the rest of your life, really.
No kidding. And he's not, though. He's like, no, I have more stories I want to tell.
And also, he's very, very good at uplifting other people.
He is, yeah. He had such a unique experience of being a 16-year-old navigating the world of publishing. Like, he has, that unique exposure to just how challenging it can be, and he doesn't want to see other people struggle. It's very admirable.
Yeah, he doesn't want to see other people struggle at all. And I still think that question that I first asked him when we first met, which was, you know, how has being a success as a child impacted you as an adult? He was like, no one has ever asked me that before. I don't think that they have the audacity to ask me that before. But he answers. That's how you build friendships, right? By like mildly roasting people. Right?
I mean, yeah. It's worked out quite well for you thus far.
Another thing that I really enjoyed watching was Sophie's romantasy panel. Not
romance.
My apologies.
Romance, yep.
There's many romances now. But her contemporary romance panel with Bex Borison, Ali Hazelwood, Jared, and Sophia, and getting to see Jared and Sophia kind of establish themselves as sports romance authors was very, very cool for me to see, because they are writing for OwlCrate Press. And so putting them in the room with Ali and Bex just felt like a really natural inclusion.
Yep. I dream that now Ali and Sophia are just going to be best friends after this, because their dynamic was fantastic.
We were hoping for that, though. And when we do sit down to like craft these panels, we do take into consideration personalities while we're doing it as well. And we have the benefit in doing that because we've talked to all of these folks before. And I think that we got it all right this year.
I think so. Yeah.
I'm not going to say that we had it all right in the past. There's been interesting personality conflicts.
Sure.
But no, this time is great. I love the Monsters panel and getting to talk about Monsters and Masquerade. I do not like how Robin and Angela and Sarah turned it around on me, because I'm also an author in the book. And I was like, we're not there to talk about me. We're here to talk about monsters.
But as they so correctly pointed out, talking about monsters is talking about you, because it was your brainchild. It was entirely, it started as a concept within you. And that is the reason it has come to be.
It started as a prompt for the September 2023 reading challenge. It started as a prompt in the Great Arcanum reading challenge. It's really funny when I point that out, because Monsters and Masquerade was one of our prompts for that. And then in addition to that, the Great Arcanum reading challenge itself actually inspired my story. Because that's where it came from. The Arcanum Order came from the idea for the name of that reading challenge. Nice. Isn't that crazy?
It is.
It's crazy how it kind of just all melds together.
Yeah. Makes me wonder if Carolyn's story had any inspiration from that. Portrait of the
Portrait of the Arcane is a Frankenstein retelling, but it's sapphic.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think it's just the arcane that's making me think of it.
I can spoil it a little bit. It's actually about a girl who lives in a library, and she can create things out of paper, and she finds herself to be a god and a monster. And I love that. That's exactly what the entire theme is supposed to be.
Right. That's one of those stories that I read a very early draft when we were, deciding what stories could go into the anthology. And then as it moved on, I focused on reading some of the other stories for it. But right away, reading that one, I knew there was something special about it.
There is something special about it, and Carolyn has never before been published. She's a member of the Nest. She's a member of like the Reading Challenge. So that's really, really special.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that we put in so much effort to with our dev editing process and our line editing process, just to make sure that our authors were very, very supported because they were new.
Yep, exactly. I think that they've all.
So. What else was fun? The artist panel. Did you tune in for that one?
Yes. Yes. I think I took that one live. Maybe. I was there. I remember watching.
The technology was being so finicky for OwlCrate-A-Con. Once again, folks, if you were there, you know. Yeah. If you know, you know. Yeah. We tried to make it as seamless as possible on the back end for everybody. Mm-hmm. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot about their processes and things like that. Mm-hmm. And well done, Cade, for having the most professional live chat of the day.
Yeah, no kidding. We sure can't claim that with any of the panels we hosted.
We will never be able to claim that as an award ever.
No.
Talking with Jason and Kevin was equally as fun because we got to talk about bindery and we got to talk about alternative publishing and we got to talk about Strix and all the collaborations and things like that we do that we're also looking to do more of. Yes. In late 2024 and 2025, where we're going to be talking with content creators because they're you.
Yeah.
And they know what people want. Yeah. And they're entertaining more so than we are. Probably. I don't know. I think we're actually pretty entertaining, if I'm honest.
I think the number of attendees, at our Unhinged hang, I think that shows that we're pretty entertaining.
The Unhinged hang that will never see the light of day.
Exactly.
But I realized community coordinator nearly posted to the Nest.
Oh no! Yeah, that wouldn't have been good. That would not have been good. That is, no. If you were there, But instead, right before the Unhinged hang, the last thing we hosted was the potentially most anticipated panel, simply because of the genre, which is romantasy. I mean.
Yeah.
Everyone knows if you're on Book Talk, romantasy is the hot thing.
It is so hot. And I think that people were very surprised about our lineup for the romantasy panel. But it's going to make a lot more sense in the next couple of months.
Yes.
There's a piece of news about Kaylee Smith's novel Phantasma that has been picked up by a very large book box subscription company. We are so stoked for Kaylee. When I first read her YA novel, I knew that she was going to do exceptional things. Sarah Raish has long been a big, impactful author for both of us because Snow Like Ashes was just so huge for its time. And seeing Sarah come back to it, especially for something that she might be doing for us,
Maybe, again, if you caught the Unhinged hang, you might have seen a special surprise guest that I cooked up within, an hour's notice for her, but it's fine. No, I think that while Nightmare Before Christmas would not traditionally fall into the romantasy, as Phantasma might, or as When the Moon Hatched might, Sarah's other work has absolutely been very solidly romantasy, and there's no doubt that Nightmare Before Christmas, it's got a very strong romance plot to it. It's got the fantasy elements.
That if Snow Like Ashes had been written now, it would be new adult.
Yeah, it's true.
So I'm looking forward to seeing what Sarah does. Sarah A. Parker, not to be confused with Sarah Raish, is the author of When the Moon Hatched, and I can't tell you anything about a potential collaboration about that?
Nope.
There's no news.
Our lips are sealed. There is no news, but
That being
also our
said,
lips are sealed.
I think that we can confidently say that we are looking forward to working with all of the authors that came to OwlCrate-A-Con, and we would jump at the opportunity to do so.
Yes. That is definitely a challenge that all of the people leading the new quarterly subscriptions have faced, is wanting to do so many different books and having to.
And you know that people are going to take us to task for how many special editions that we have coming out in the next 5 months, right?
Right. Oh, yes.
Like that you listening to this right now will take us to task. You will comment on our stuff to be like, how dare you put out all of these special editions at once? We know, besties. That's why we have to limit ourselves in 2025.
Yep. And believe me, like, it seems like there's a lot coming out, and this is still us having limited ourselves.
Yeah, no, we wanted to go ham, and Karina was like, slow down. Actually, was one of the big conversations that we had in August, because we were coming up on being like, I'd say 80% done on so many projects, Maggie. And there were projects that we put in place post like retreat in January. We sat down and we're like, we're gonna do all these things, and everybody was like, okay, we're gonna do all these things, and now we're like, oh no, we did all these things.
We did all these things, and now it's all coming out to the world, and then, we'll give you a little break. Like, I will tell you right now, January and February are not heavy limited edition release months for 2025 or anything, where we know right after the holidays it can be tough, so we're not overwhelming you then. But then, March will hit, and we're going to hit you hard for the rest of 2025. But within reason.
Please don't use that for a soundbite. Could you imagine if that was just taken out of context? Like, we're gonna hit you hard.
Yeah, the nipples one is better.
Who let us record a podcast?
It's a fantastic question. I feel like at this point we're only going to devolve further.
Well, since it's been 33 minutes, I think we've actually done very well.
We have.
So we're probably going to let you go.
Cool.
But not without talking about what we're going to be doing in this fall. So we're going to tell you a little bit about where Lost in Plots is going to be taking you later on this week. Actually, it's today, but you're going to pretend in the time where time doesn't exist when this podcast is released that it's later. I'm going to be sitting down with Cade, and we are going to be talking all things sci-fi, post-apocalyptic, dystopian. I'm very, very excited because in 2 days, we are launching submissions for Future States of Stars.
I know. It's very exciting, everyone.
And I'm just very excited to talk everything dystopian.
Of course you are.
It's one of my favorite genres. Actually, there's a dystopian book coming in the YA next year.
There is.
Didn't I say last year that we'd see a return to dystopian books?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, there are multiple, because we're actively picking our summer 2025 books right now. There's multiple that are on my short list that have very strong dystopian vibes that I just think, people are going to love it.
If it makes you feel better, I once predicted that Pink Kitchens would make a return to Taryn, who is one of my best friends and an interior designer, and she got very upset with me when it did.
Well, what can you say?
I can predict kitchen colors and popular book genres. That's a very niche skill set. I'm so glad I'm employed gainfully.
Hey, doing everybody. What you love.
Doing what we love, which is just talking smack about books.
Yeah, being weird and unhinged.
And taking pictures of books.
Yeah.
Designing books.
Arranging shelves with pretty books.
Team OwlCrate, they're just like you.
There's our soundbite.
Thank you so much for listening to Lost in Plots. We hope that you can rate and review us anywhere that you're watching or listening to this podcast, hopefully while you're cleaning your home. We will catch you next time with our dystopian apocalyptic episode with Cade. We have an amazing episode coming with Maggie and I and Carissa Broadbent, and a couple more book clubs to end off the month. And if you're lucky, Maggie and I might come back in October with some stories from Salem, Massachusetts, because we are going on holiday this September.
Yay!
Together! Team OwlCrate, they're just like you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye!